All right, so as we all know, Lamar Jackson's been out with an injury for the last month or so.
Yes.
Still very questionable for the game Sunday, but it seems highly unlikely that he plays.
Crazy. Yep.
Tyler Huntley didn't throw on Wednesday either, so that's not great news for Baltimore. That
Yep.
probably means their third string quarterback's going to be playing
Yeah.
again.
Old Anthony Brown. DeMonte doesn't want to say Anthony Brown's name because he's worried Anthony Brown might watch the show and have his feelings hurt. But go ahead.
Baltimore made the playoffs this year, but Lamar had a mediocre to bad season.
Sure. After a great start, through
Right,
3
exactly.
weeks
That's
looked
why I
like
call it mediocre.
Yeah, through 3 weeks looked like league MVP.
Right.
Then tailed off a bit, particularly passing the ball. Now, granted, he had no receivers once again, and now he's hurt at the end. But go ahead.
Right. But they basically have no shot to win anything without Lamar.
Yep.
Was this season a worst case scenario for both sides?
I mean, I think that's a good way to put it, and I think it's trending towards that.
Yeah.
I think the worst case for Lamar would be, other than catastrophic injury,
Right.
was he gets injured and he's unable to finish the year for the second straight year. The worst case scenario for Baltimore was he gets injured and we once again proved we can't survive without him.
Right.
So this is one of those spots where I don't think either side is being wholly unreasonable. I don't think it is unreasonable for Lamar to say, I want the same contract structure Deshaun Watson got. I've accomplished more in this league than Deshaun. I've certainly been a better citizen than Deshaun. I'm not on my second team. I'm better. I want a fully guaranteed deal. I think that's reasonable. I also, and this is something a lot of the media seems afraid to say, and I don't know why. I have an idea why, but I'm going to try to stick to the clock, so I'm not going to get into the full depth of it. I think a lot of people agree with me when I say this. If I were Baltimore, I would be very nervous about giving Lamar Jackson $200+ million fully guaranteed, because you do worry about his style of play leading to injury. You do worry about the fact that he has not seemingly evolved as a passer. And you do worry that if you pay him at that level, are you going to be able to put the requisite pieces around him on both sides of the ball to compete for a championship? And you do worry that he's not going to have a prime that goes deep into his 30s. And I understand a contract, you wouldn't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about the next 4 or 5 years. So I get why Lamar wants it, and I get why Baltimore would be hesitant to give it. However, if Lamar doesn't play in these playoffs, I think anyone that is acting like it's not on the board of potential outcomes that Lamar has played his last game as a Raven are kidding themselves. So I understand. I talked with Chris Broussard about this on television yesterday. He was like, they'll just franchise tag him. I want the audience to understand something. Lamar didn't get the contract he wanted going into this year. Some people suggested he hold out, just not show up, right? That is incredibly unwieldy and incredibly punitive for the player under the current collective bargaining agreement. I hate to be so in the weeds here, but this is something we don't have the space to give the full details on television, but I have a little more time to do it here. If you hold out when you're under contract, the fines are upwards of $40,000 a day. And if you hold out long enough, your contract can toll, meaning it's not like, okay, I'll hold out all year and then that'll count for a year on my contract, and then next year I'm a free agent. No, the contract can toll, meaning it's like this year didn't happen, and then you have the exact same 1 year left on your contract for next season. So that's the initial problem. The other problem is this. It is one thing to hold out. And again, this is nerdy CBA stuff, but I think it helps people understand the real nuances of this. It's one thing to hold out, meaning to never show up. But Lamar showed up to training camp, I think, believing he was going to get a new deal. They were negotiating, right? But then it didn't get done. If you show up and then hold out, that is even worse as far as how punitive it can be, because that's called leaving the team. So if you show up to the facilities for weeks and then leave because you're holding out, it is even more damaging as far as what the team can do to you from a punitive standpoint, because it's like you're AWOL. So once Lamar showed up, he was always going to end up playing this year because he's under contract. The franchise tag, on the other hand, is a totally different situation. And what I mean by that is this. They can franchise tag him, it'll be like $45 million. But he's not under contract until he signs it. If he refuses to sign it, they can do nothing to him. He just can't play. They can't fine him. There is no contract to toll. It's not even a holdout.
Interesting.
It's just him saying, I won't sign this. You can tag me, but I won't sign it. And if he doesn't sign it, then they have no recourse. Now, would he be willing to sit out a full season? I don't know. Who was it? Not LaShawn McCoy. Le'Veon Bell did it and ended up getting a great contract from the Jets. Now his career went sideways after that. We've seen guys do it. I think his name was Gilbert, Sean Gilbert, maybe. There was a D tackle for the Panthers who did it a long time ago. They will be playing a very dangerous game. One other note here that is, I think, why we are trending towards split between the Ravens and Lamar. There's a lot of reasons people have agents, DeMonte. I think you'll find this really interesting. And most people think, they negotiate my deals for me. They get me the most money, all of it. The other reason people have agents is to protect the relationship between the employee and the employer. So, when you are in contract negotiations, the employer who wants to pay you less makes the case as to why you're not as valuable as you think. So I'll give a real life example, but I won't name names. I have a good friend of mine who's in the media business who just went through what ended up being a pretty contentious contract negotiations. Now, his agent told him this. I would argue his agent probably shouldn't have told him this. But when he was saying, I thought I was going to get paid X, why are they offering Y? His agent's like, well, they said the last 6 months, your ratings, it might have been 3 months, have been your ratings haven't been in the spot they wanted it to be in. They were arguing why he wasn't quite as valuable as he thought he was. Now, his agent shouldn't have told him that, but set that aside. But that pissed him off, made him dig in. Here's why I bring this up with Lamar. Lamar is representing himself. So when Lamar goes in to negotiate, and Lamar's family goes in to negotiate with him, and he's like, I want $200 million guaranteed. Why won't you give it to me? The answer is, well, and then they list his weaknesses as a player. He's the one hearing that.
Right.
So for all of those reasons, I think it is on the board that a team that wants to pay Lamar makes a Godfather offer to the Ravens, and he is traded. And I think it is on the board, if he does not play this weekend, that he has played his last game as a Raven. Because if the Ravens didn't want to give him a fully guaranteed contract before this year, you think they're going to be more apt to when he's hurt again and once again doesn't evolve as a passer? I don't.
Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button to get more from the show, and make sure to click the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just click the link in the description below.